Ladies, let me talk to you for a moment. And fellas, if you're listening, don't tune out, because this message might just save your future. See, a man doesn't always realize the value of a woman while he has her. When she's there, loving him, supporting him, praying for him, standing by him through his worst moments, he thinks that love is permanent. He thinks it's guaranteed. He thinks she'll always be there, no matter what he does. But let me tell you something, nothing in this life is guaranteed, especially the heart of a good woman. When a man loses a woman who truly loved him, the first thing he feels is confusion, because suddenly the texts stop, the calls stop, the emotional support disappears. The comfort he once took for granted is gone, and now he doesn't understand what happened. He thought she'd stay. He thought she'd keep forgiving. He thought she'd keep waiting, but she reached her limit. Then comes denial. He tells himself she'll be back. He convinces himself that she's just emotional, just upset, just taking a break. He doesn't take it seriously at first, because in his mind, she's always come back before. But this time is different. This time she's tired. This time she chose herself. And when reality finally hits, that's when the pain begins. Now he starts noticing everything she used to do. The way she cared, the way she listened, the way she believed in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. He remembers her prayers, her patience, her loyalty, and suddenly the house feels empty. The nights feel longer. The silence becomes louder than any argument they ever had. That's when regret sets in. He starts replaying moments in his head, the times he ignored her, dismissed her feelings, chose his ego over her heart. He realizes he had something rare, something precious, something many men spend their whole lives searching for. And he let it walk away. Then comes the awakening. He finally understands that love like hers doesn't come twice. A woman who truly loves a man gives him her heart, her time, her energy, her faith, her patience. She builds him. She protects him. She stands in the gap for him. And when she leaves, she doesn't just take her presence. She takes the peace, the comfort, the emotional security with her. And that's when a man truly changes or breaks. A man often realizes the true value of a woman only after she is gone, while she is still present in his life, loving him, supporting him, and standing beside him through his struggles. He usually believes that her love is permanent. He assumes she will always forgive, always understand, always wait. He becomes comfortable, and that comfort slowly turns into carelessness. He stops paying attention to the little things. He no longer notices her efforts, her sacrifices, or her silent prayers for him. What once felt special becomes routine, and what once felt precious starts to feel ordinary. In his mind, her presence is guaranteed, so he puts her feelings second and his ego first. During this time, she gives more and more of herself, hoping that one day he will finally see her worth. She listens when he is tired. She encourages him when he feels like giving up. She believes in his dreams even when no one else does. She stands by him during his worst days, thinking that her love will eventually change him. But with each disappointment, something inside her slowly breaks. She becomes quieter. Her smile fades. Her patience wears thin. She starts to feel invisible, unappreciated, and emotionally alone even while still in the relationship. And yet she stays because she loves deeply and hopes endlessly. But every woman has a limit. There comes a moment when the pain becomes heavier than the love, when the disrespect becomes louder than the memories, when the loneliness becomes stronger than the attachment. And when she finally decides to walk away, she doesn't do it suddenly. She has already cried enough. She has already tried enough. She has already forgiven enough. By the time she leaves, she is emotionally exhausted and her decision is firm. She doesn't leave because she stopped loving him. She leaves because she finally started loving herself. At first, the man does not understand what has happened. He feels confused. He thinks she is just upset, just emotional, just going through a phase. He believes she will come back like she always did before. He does not take her silence seriously. But as days pass and her absence becomes real, something begins to shift inside him. He notices the emptiness in his life. The place she once filled now feels painfully vacant. The warmth, the comfort, the emotional security he once enjoyed is gone, and nothing seems to replace it. Slowly, reality starts to hit. He begins to remember the little things he once ignored. The way she used to care, the way she checked on him, the way she stood by him without asking for anything in return. He remembers her kindness, her patience, her loyalty. He starts to realize that she gave him the kind of love that is rare in this world. And now, that love is no longer his. Regret begins to grow in his heart. He replays moments in his mind, wishing he had acted differently. He wishes he had listened more, appreciated more, loved better. He starts to see his mistakes clearly, but now it is too late. The woman who once begged for his attention no longer wants to be heard. The woman who once waited for his time no longer waits. The woman who once put him first has now chosen herself. And that realization hurts more than any argument they ever had. This is when a man truly understands the value of a woman, when her absence becomes louder than her presence ever was. He understands that love like hers is not common. A woman who truly loves does not just offer companionship. She offers emotional safety, peace, loyalty, and unconditional support. She becomes a source of strength, stability, and comfort. Losing her feels like losing a part of himself. Some men grow from this experience. They learn, they mature, they change. They promise themselves they will never take love for granted again. They become better partners, better men, and better human beings. But for many, the regret stays forever. They carry the memory of her love as a reminder of what they lost and what they failed to protect. In the end, a man realizes that the greatest loss is not when someone leaves, but when someone who truly loved him walks away and never looks back. Because chances come often, but real love comes only once. When a man loses a woman who truly loved him, one of the first emotions he experiences is denial. He convinces himself that it is only temporary, that she is just upset, that she will come back once she calms down. In his mind, her love has always been dependable, always available, and always forgiving. He has seen her overlook mistakes before, so he assumes this time will be no different. He continues with his routine, believing that the situation will fix itself without any effort from his side. But deep down, there is an uncomfortable feeling he tries to ignore, a quiet fear that something has changed for good. As days turn into weeks, the reality slowly begins to sink in. Her silence becomes louder than any argument they ever had. The absence of her messages, her voice, her presence creates a strange emptiness in his life. He starts checking his phone more often, hoping to see her name light up the screen. He rereads old messages, searching for meaning, searching for comfort, searching for signs that she still cares. Every unanswered call, every unread text chips away at his confidence and forces him to face the truth that she may not return. At this stage, confusion takes over. He begins to question everything. He wonders what exactly went wrong when things started to fall apart and why he didn't notice it earlier. He remembers moments when she tried to express her pain and he brushed it off. Times when she wanted his attention and he was too busy for her. Moments when she needed emotional support and he gave excuses instead. Slowly, these memories start to connect, forming a clear picture of how his neglect, indifference, and lack of effort pushed her away. This realization is painful. It forces him to confront parts of himself he avoided for a long time. He sees how his ego made him stubborn, how his pride stopped him from apologizing, and how his comfort made him careless. He understands that she didn't leave suddenly. She left after countless disappointments, broken promises, and silent tears. He now recognizes that her departure was not a rash decision, but the result of emotional exhaustion. With this awareness comes deep regret. He wishes he could go back and change his actions. He imagines different scenarios where he listened more, loved more, and appreciated her more. He regrets every moment he chose his ego over her heart, every time he dismissed her feelings, and every chance he had to make things right but didn't. The weight of these regrets becomes heavy, often keeping him awake at night, replaying memories that can no longer be rewritten. Loneliness soon follows. The emotional comfort she once provided is gone, leaving a void that no one else seems able to fill. Friends, distractions, and temporary pleasures fail to bring lasting peace. He realizes that her presence was more than just companionship. It was stability, understanding, and emotional safety. Without her, life feels unsettled and incomplete. Simple moments that once brought joy now feel empty because she is no longer there to share them with. In this lonely state, he starts to understand the true meaning of her love. He recognizes how deeply she cared, how much she sacrificed, and how patiently she stood by him. He sees that she gave him the best version of herself, even when he offered less in return. This awareness humbles him, teaching him lessons about gratitude, responsibility, and emotional maturity that he ignored before. Some men use this experience as a turning point. They take responsibility for their mistakes and work on becoming better individuals. They learn to communicate, to listen, and to value emotional connection. They grow emotionally, realizing that real strength lies in vulnerability, honesty, and effort. For them, the pain becomes a powerful teacher, shaping them into more compassionate and understanding partners in the future. Others, however, struggle to accept the loss. They remain stuck in regret, chasing distractions to avoid facing their emotions. They jump into new relationships too quickly, hoping to replace what they lost, only to realize that true love cannot be easily replaced. The absence of the woman who truly loved them becomes a shadow they carry, reminding them of what they once had and failed to protect. Through this process, a man learns a profound lesson about love and loss. He discovers that love should never be taken for granted and that emotional neglect can be just as damaging as betrayal. He realizes that when a woman walks away after giving her all, she rarely returns. And that understanding stays with him, shaping how he views relationships, commitment, and emotional responsibility for the rest of his life. When a man loses a woman who truly loved him, emotional pain slowly starts to take over his heart. At first, he tries to act strong, pretending that he is fine, telling himself that he does not need her, that life will go on just the same. He distracts himself with work, friends, entertainment, or temporary pleasures, hoping these things will silence the thoughts that keep creeping into his mind. But no matter how busy he stays, the silence she leaves behind keeps following him. In the quiet moments, when the world slows down, the truth becomes impossible to escape. Nights become the hardest. When there is no noise, no laughter, no conversation, and no company, the memories start flooding in. He remembers her voice, her smile, the way she used to look at him with love and hope. He remembers the comfort she brought into his life, the warmth of her presence, and the peace he once felt just knowing she was there. Now, that comfort is gone, replaced by an emptiness that feels heavy and unbearable. The bed feels colder, the room feels quieter, and his heart feels heavier than ever before. This emotional pain is not just sadness, it is a deep sense of loss. It is the realization that something valuable has slipped through his fingers. He begins to understand that he did not just lose a relationship, he lost a person who truly cared for his well-being, someone who stood by him through his struggles, failures, and doubts. This understanding hurts because it exposes his mistakes and forces him to face the reality that his actions, or lack of action, played a major role in her departure. As the pain deepens, regret begins to wrap around his thoughts. He starts replaying past moments, wishing he could change the way he acted. He thinks about the times she asked for his attention and he brushed her off. The moments she tried to express her feelings and he dismissed them. The days she waited for his effort and received only excuses. Each memory becomes a reminder of opportunities lost, chances wasted, and love taken for granted. This regret grows heavier with time, making it difficult for him to find peace. Loneliness settles in, creating a constant ache in his heart. Even when surrounded by people, he feels alone. Laughter feels forced, conversations feel shallow, and connections feel temporary. He realizes that her presence gave meaning to his everyday life. Simple moments like eating together, talking late at night, sharing dreams, and supporting each other through stress once brought comfort and joy. Without her, these moments lose their warmth, leaving behind a dull sense of emptiness. The emotional pain also challenges his sense of identity. He begins to question his worth, his choices, and his emotional intelligence. He wonders if he was ever good enough for her love and whether he will ever experience such deep connection again. This self-reflection can be uncomfortable, but it often leads to growth. Pain has a way of forcing honesty, and through this honesty, he starts to understand himself better. He sees his weaknesses, his fears, and his emotional immaturity, and this awareness becomes a turning point. For some men, this pain becomes a catalyst for positive change. They take responsibility for their mistakes and commit to personal growth. They work on becoming more patient, more understanding, and more emotionally available. They learn the importance of communication, empathy, and appreciation. The loss teaches them that love requires consistent effort and emotional presence, not just words or promises. Through this transformation, they become better versions of themselves, carrying the lessons of the past into a healthier future. For others, the pain becomes overwhelming. They struggle to process their emotions and attempt to numb the hurt through unhealthy habits or constant distractions. They avoid facing the reality of their loss, hoping that time alone will heal everything. But unaddressed pain has a way of resurfacing, often stronger than before. The memory of her love remains, serving as a quiet reminder of what they once had and failed to cherish. In the depths of this emotional journey, a man comes to understand the true cost of losing someone who genuinely loved him. He learns that emotional pain is not just about missing a person, it is about missing the version of himself that existed when he was loved so deeply. And that realization stays with him, shaping his heart, his mindset, and his future relationships. When a man loses a woman who truly loved him, deep regret slowly begins to take over his thoughts. At first, he tries to push it away, convincing himself that what happened was unavoidable or that things simply were not meant to be. But over time, the truth becomes clearer and the excuses lose their power. He starts to see his mistakes in a way he never did before. He remembers the moments he chose comfort over effort, pride over humility, and distraction over connection. Each memory becomes a quiet reminder of what he could have done differently. Regret often shows up in the smallest details. He remembers how she used to wait for his messages, how she smiled when he called, and how her eyes lit up when he made even the smallest effort. He realizes that he once held the power to make her happy so easily, yet he failed to appreciate it. Now, those simple moments feel priceless, and the thought that he cannot relive them fills his heart with sorrow. The things he once overlooked now seem irreplaceable. As he reflects more, he begins to understand how much she truly gave. She invested her time, her emotions, her patience, and her hope into the relationship. She stood by him during his low points, believed in his potential, and supported his dreams. Even when she was tired, hurt, or disappointed, she kept trying. And he, in his comfort, failed to match her effort. This imbalance becomes painfully obvious in hindsight, making the regret even heavier. He also starts to recognize the emotional strength it took for her to walk away. He understands that her leaving was not a sign of weakness, but of courage. She chose her self-respect over emotional pain, her peace over constant disappointment. Realizing this makes him respect her even more, and that respect deepens his sense of loss. He sees that he lost not only a loving partner, but a strong, self-aware woman who knew her worth. This regret often leads to self-blame. He questions his emotional maturity and wonders why he did not act differently when he had the chance. He replays conversations in his mind, imagining better responses, kinder words, and more understanding reactions. He thinks about apologies he never gave and affection he never showed. Each missed opportunity becomes a lesson learned too late, leaving him with a lingering sense of guilt. In this stage, growth becomes possible. Regret, when faced honestly, can transform a man. It forces him to confront uncomfortable truths about himself and pushes him to change. He starts to understand the importance of emotional responsibility, communication, and empathy. He learns that love requires consistent effort, not just occasional gestures. Through this realization, he begins to develop emotional depth and maturity that he lacked before. However, this growth often comes with lingering sadness. Even as he becomes a better person, he knows that the woman who inspired this change may never return. He must live with the understanding that his personal growth came at the cost of losing someone irreplaceable. This awareness humbles him and reshapes his view of relationships, teaching him to value love, trust, and commitment more deeply. Over time, regret softens but never completely disappears. It becomes a quiet reminder of the past, guiding his future choices. He carries the lessons learned into new relationships, determined not to repeat the same mistakes. The memory of her love stays with him, not as a source of pain, but as a standard of what genuine care and devotion truly look like. When a man truly understands what he has lost, an awakening begins inside him. This awakening is not sudden or dramatic. It grows slowly, shaped by reflection, pain, and experience. He starts to see life differently. The things that once seemed important, like ego, pride, and control, begin to lose their value. In their place, emotional awareness, understanding, and maturity start to grow. He realizes that the woman he lost was not just a part of his life, but a foundation that gave his world stability, meaning, and direction. In this stage, he begins to recognize patterns in his past behavior. He sees how fear of vulnerability made him emotionally distant, how pride prevented him from apologizing, and how comfort made him careless. He understands that his inability to express emotions and his reluctance to invest emotionally created a distance between them. This self-awareness can be uncomfortable, but it becomes the key to transformation. For the first time, he takes full responsibility for his actions without excuses or blame. This awakening also changes the way he views love. He no longer sees it as something guaranteed or permanent. He understands that love must be nurtured, protected, and respected. He learns that relationships thrive on consistent effort, open communication, and emotional presence. Through this understanding, he develops a deeper appreciation for emotional connection and begins to value trust, loyalty, and respect more than superficial attractions or temporary pleasures. As he grows, his priorities shift. He starts focusing on self-improvement, emotional intelligence, and personal discipline. He works on becoming more patient, more understanding, and more compassionate. He pays closer attention to the feelings of others and becomes more mindful of how his words and actions impact those around him. This inner growth reshapes his character, making him stronger, wiser, and more emotionally grounded. At the same time, this awakening brings humility. He understands that personal growth does not erase past mistakes. He accepts that he cannot change what happened, but he can learn from it. This acceptance helps him let go of self-blame and focus on becoming a better version of himself. He stops chasing validation and instead seeks peace, stability, and purpose. This new mindset gives him emotional clarity and strength. This period of transformation often becomes a turning point in his life. He becomes more intentional in his relationships, choosing depth over quantity and sincerity over convenience. He listens more carefully, communicates more openly, and values emotional honesty. He no longer runs from difficult conversations or uncomfortable feelings. Instead, he faces them with courage and maturity, knowing that emotional growth requires vulnerability. Through this awakening, he comes to understand that losing a woman who truly loved him was one of life's hardest, but most valuable lessons. It taught him the importance of gratitude, responsibility, and emotional awareness. While the pain of loss may never fully disappear, the wisdom gained becomes a guiding force in his life. He carries these lessons forward, determined to build healthier relationships and honor love with the respect it deserves.